Today we have a very special panelist, Terron Sims II. He is a U.S. Army combat veteran, businessman, political leader, and a graduate of West Point, which I can see proudly displayed on his shirt. But what a career! It sounds like you've had, really in-depth experiences. And today, I know you're going to be discussing something. Never again. I was there on January 6th. We are Veterans United to defend our Constitution. What a fundamental statement that you are making. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your experiences on that day and what was going through your mind, being so much of a patriot of this country?
Yeah, sir. Thanks for the question. And I do have to say I do like having conversations with veterans of my dad's generation. So
okay. Yes. Thank you.
My choosing to go down to the Capitol that day really began with Charlottesville,
okay.
Right? What happened back in 2017. And a lot of people don't know this, but people who know me don't know this. I got a phone call that Friday night of Charlottesville. The Friday night incident and the riots or the fighting that happened on that Saturday.
Yeah.
And that Friday evening, the Klan, white nationalists, whatever you want to call these people, right? They discovered that there was a prayer vigil occurring at a synagogue, multi-religious, right? So Muslims, Jews, Christians, and whomever else. A lot of the faith leaders were at this synagogue, and there were some politicians there and some political candidates as well. But it was solely for the purpose of coming together, praying, because they knew that Saturday was going to occur. Yeah. And when the white nationalists showed up and barricaded those people in that synagogue, a friend of mine who was in there called me, and just to let I don't know what moved him to call me. I can imagine he didn't call 100 people, but he called me. And he's a Marine, he's a combat vet. He was in the in the Sunni Triangle, so he knows, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
But, and it wasn't that he was scared, but there were other people there too, who didn't really know what was going on or what could happen, right? Like the very worst. And I was mad at myself that I wasn't there. And I didn't own a car at the time. And so even if I had a car, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Charlottesville, 2-hour drive for me. Even if I get there, by the time I'm there, the incident is probably over, right? And then Saturday happened, and I'm watching on the news like everybody else. And the mayor of Charlottesville is one of my closest friends, and I'm watching all this go down, and I see the young lady get killed live like the rest of us did. And I'm like, I should have been there. Like, not that my presence there would have, created this great peace, but there were people I cared about who I know were there.
Yes.
And there was this sense of regret of not being at the right place at that time. And so we fast forward to the 6th of January, or, at least for the days leading up to that day. I said to myself, I knew that this was going to be a historic day for all the wrong reasons, but historic nonetheless. And I had this inkling that if something went down and there were regular people who needed help, I'd have felt like crap if I'd have been at home and not been out there to help those people.
Yes.
And so those two reasons was why I chose to go. Left the house a little later than I'd wanted to. Wife was confused as to why I was going. Didn't know the right way to explain it to her, and then I got to be there.
Yeah, well, that's the heart of a veteran, right? That's the heart of the courage and the honor that you carry. And I remember, back in 9/11, people were saying, I wish I was on that plane. wish I was on one of those planes that went into the Trade Center or into the into the Pentagon or into the field in Philadelphia. And one of the things I always remember is that that we are sheepdogs, right? So we protect the sheep, and so a sheepdog runs into battle, doesn't run away from it. So whereas people are running away from an incident, you always see the veterans running towards, the line of fire and to try to stop and quell it. So,
right.
But one of the things is by your patriotism and what you have done in your whole life, you have always been supporting that ideal. And by getting in your car and going, that really demonstrates the commitment to fighting against something like that. And, so I think you were already there in spirit. And that's something that people need to recognize, that every veteran in this country, if they really are true to their oath in defending the Constitution and their oath of what they took for joining the military, they were on the right side of the line. They were trying to make sure that people were not harmed. To have our capital besieged, something that really hadn't happened since the 1800s. I just look at that and say this was really a test of how much we believe in this Constitution. So I'm glad we still have people like you who are there and willing to join the fight and to get into making a stand against something like that.
Thank you.
Yes. So so what are your reflections on the whole day? What do you think this whole thing meant, and where do we go from here? Because we really want a united country. As part of this show, we always come across as being a nonpartisan show. We don't want to
right.
alienate anybody, but anyone who is wearing the pin of a person that's a congressional member, anyone who is taking public office should be defending this country, should be defending the institution. Without that institution, where else do we go? That was one of the things when I was a combat veteran in Iraq, so I did a couple of tours there in Iraq and then some other places. But when I was there, one question I had for Al-Qaeda was, so you take down this government, what are you going to replace it with? And there was never any answer. So what would be the replacement for the kind of system that we've built over hundreds of years? I don't know what that would be.
No, I think these people want total chaos. They have this altruistic idea. Here's a good example. You were in Iraq. So I was there in 03, 04, OIF-1.
Oh, yeah.
This is a perfect example. So my civil affairs team and I were going across one of the bridges to get to the green zone. It was one of the bridges that was, I forget the name of it, but came from downtown.
Right.
So once you got over the bridge, you turned left and you were into the green zone. And it was bumper-to-bumper traffic. And, cruising traffic didn't make me feel good, right? Yeah. And so we got out of our vehicle and we start playing traffic cop. And because, not just to get us moving, right, but because cars were driving in the opposite direction and driving on the sidewalks, right? And I remember tapping the hood of one guy's car. And I was like making this turnaround motion. Right. I could speak a little Arabic, but I didn't know the Arabic word for turnaround. Right. Doing this. He's looking at me like this, and he says, "Freedom, freedom. We're free, we're free." I said, "No, this isn't freedom, right?" To the Iraqis, being able to drive on the sidewalk to get to where they needed to go because someone was in their way was freedom. And those people who stormed the Capitol, in their minds, that's what freedom is also. In their minds, freedom is I can do whatever I want, no matter who says it. The authorities don't have any authority over me. They just have to agree with me because I'm an American and I'm free.
Yes.
And right. And for them, they only believe in laws that enable them.
That's right. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't do that in the name of democracy, right?
No.
That is not what you do. And to storm into the Capitol, those were domestic terrorists. It's just plain and simple. If
Yeah.
anyone else was there, if we had Russians do that, we would have shot them, right? If we had people who came in from, North Korea, it would have been a done day, right?
It's black people.
Right.
There's black people that have been up there.
Yes.
They all would have been done down.
All done. Yes.
No one would have felt sorry for them.
That's right, and that is a tragic comment, on commentary on how we're actually looking at things, and for people to think that this is the the America that Constitution was supposed to be building is really sad. I think they need to stop, read past the Second Amendment, and maybe get to the Third, Fourth, and Fifth, and catch up with the rest of the Constitution, and realize why it was written the way it was.
Yes, sir.
So what do you think we can be doing, to, quell that angst in people? Because a lot of it is that you have people who are there that will follow leaders. Because I studied history, and if you start looking at Mussolini and Hitler, and and you start looking at Lenin, and you start looking at these dictatorial leaders, they always had that power over people to make you see something that's not really there. To suck people in. And with this social media craze that's going on, even with the COVID-19 vaccinations, this media that's out there that's just like absolutely bonkers, like crazy, right? What people are saying. So you have to really listen to authoritative sources. So what do you think that we can do as veterans? What can the government do to really get back to teaching people the truth? In schools, in society. A campaign to say, let's set the record straight.
Right. It's interesting because I see systemic things that need fixing that sadly would take an act of Congress, and I have no faith in Congress right now. I hate saying that publicly, but it is what it is. We need a constitutional convention. These past 4 years have shown, maybe even 5 or 6 years have shown that, now I'll take that back. I'd say since 2009, we've realized that there are holes within our procedures that don't force leaders to do what leaders have to do.
Correct.
Right? So a good example is that, the Constitution simply says, the House passes a bill, and they give it to the Senate, and the Senate does what they want with it, and then they pass it, and they vote on the bill. Right, but the way the rules are written, the Senate Majority Leader can let all the bills sit on his desk and do nothing with them. So that totally defeats the purpose of that constitutional aspect of writing bills. Right, if you write a bill and I'm the Senate leader and I don't like you, like they did with Barack Obama, then no good legislation gets even voted on or taken to the floor. And so procedures like that have to be changed. The rudimentary, they were written in, I hate saying it, but with an idealistic thought because, well, as you know, because only white men who own property were the initial voting population, so they weren't going to do anything to hinder themselves, but as you increase that voting pool, you dilute, say, the number of people who actually care who go and hold these offices.
Yes.
So now we have a collection of elected officials who, as one of my former congressmen, my only former congressman stated, they just don't want to. They don't want to govern and don't want to learn how to govern. Right? They just want to make noise. So those institutions have to be changed so that even if someone of that mindset is elected to office, they are still forced to do their job and aren't allowed to just go there and grandstand and do nothing.
Yeah, because I started thinking back when you were talking about that. When we had Senator Kennedy in there, and we had John McCain. You may not agree with everything they said, depending on your political view, but you knew that they loved this country and they put it first. And they had decency, they had honor, and they brought that to their office and their responsibilities. So, I still remember when John McCain said, that lady said, "Oh, he's an Arab," and he said, "No, no, 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 no. Let's not go there."
Right.
He is a good man. He's a citizen. So that is the kind of leadership we need. And I used to run the Illinois Department of Public Health from 2007 to 11, and one of the things that happened right before me was about three predecessors before me. There was one person who actually went on vacation during one of these outbreaks, and he lost his job. He went on vacation. So when H1N1 came out, I was staying where I was every day, right by the phone, and I worked with it, right? So I already had that dedication because of the military training. But when we have legislators, I couldn't go to St. Kitts or St. Croix or Cancun. But
Right.
that's an abandonment of your duties, and I think that we have to stay with the people. The first and primary duty of the government is to protect the people. That if it doesn't do that, there's nothing else that it can do. And so I really agree with you that it's really incumbent upon our leadership that we actually elect to put in office to get things done. We don't get to have them, grandstand on television, on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, or that's not what you're there for. You're there to get some jobs done. And there was one guy, and I think Bill Maher had put him on, but he was actually behind a lot of the healthcare legislation and that kind of thing. Great architect. I mean, this guy was spending every day at the desk, didn't want to do interviews. He said, I don't have time for that. And he was really doing a lot of great work. And so he actually gave him an award, one of these, fictitious awards. But he said, this is something that we should be doing. But we need to have more dedicated people like that run for office. And we need to actually do maybe psychological testing before they get in office to find out what they're really thinking and how they're thinking. But we cannot go through this again. We cannot allow this to repeat itself. Yes.
Because, I was happy that I was there because, again, you were in Iraq, so you get the difference of being in a combat zone and seeing the combat zone on television, right? It's two different pictures. Both pictures are true, right? But the picture on the ground is totally different than the picture on the television screen. And what I saw on the ground, the media didn't show, and it wasn't purposeful not show, it just is what it is. It wasn't just like, whoever someone would think is your stereotypical white racist person, right? I mean, this was a literal, like a family reunion. It was like, when I got to Union Station, it was packed. People were sitting on the floors, up against every inch of wall space. And these were all, quote unquote Trump people. I don't know a quarter about it. These are all Trump people. The only regular people I saw were a handful of, employees, it was 2 Asian tourists, a couple of police officers, and a homeless guy cussing everybody out. But it literally was like a family reunion. You had young couples pushing baby strollers. You had families who had kids. I was at the strollers for babies, but toddlers. Early elementary school kids. You could tell they didn't really know where they were, except the fact that they were with their parents. But then you saw older kids, 10, 12, 13, who knew why they were there and were happy that they were there. You had aunties, grandmothers, grandfathers, uncles, right? It was a family affair, right? Just like how you take the 180, the A. Philip Randolph and the March on Washington, where mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, the kids all went to go hear everyone speak at the Lincoln Memorial. It was just like that. It was families got on the bus, got on the airplane, got in their cars, and came down here to riot.
Yeah, When you said that, it made me have a flashback to those pictures of, Ku Klux Klansmen marching against
I
Martin
was
Luther
just going
King.
to say that.
Yeah, and the kids
Yeah.
are there. It's intergenerational then. It passes from generation to generation when you do that. And
Yeah,
that's
and I challenge everyone in the media too, primarily because I want to report on this. I challenge them when they say that there's a difference between the people who actually went into the Capitol or attempted to and those who were just on the periphery watching. I challenge that because most lynchings were not done as a private affair. Right? Most lynchings were done in a celebratory manner.
Mm-hmm.
And parents brought their little kids out to watch the lynching.
Yeah.
Right? And so maybe they didn't actually pull the black man out of his house or out the jail cell and string him up and burn him and cut off his genitalia, but they watched it.
Yes.
And enjoyed it. And so they were just as guilty as the people who actually committed the act. And so I say to the people who were just there, they knew what was happening. Because if they would have been successful, those same people would have been the ones cheering and planning the barbecue.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. The word picnic actually originated from those lynchings. And I want you to give your website address and telephone, how people can get in contact with this group. I think what you're doing with Veterans United is fantastic. So give that, and I'm going to ask you again. So we have a little bit more time to go, but I just want you to say it a couple of times so people know.
Yes, sir. So I just stuck it in the chat, and it's just www.terronsims.com. That's Tango Echo Romeo Oscar November Sierra India Mike Sierra.com.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. And people need to get involved with the movement you're doing right now. I think this is it's absolutely necessary for people to see this. And I saw the purple and gold behind you. I think that's a paddle. It might be like a Q thing or something.
It is no next, yes, sir.
But I will talk to you later. But this is something that, historically, what you're saying is that we have been a part of this country from the beginning, from Crispus Attucks forward. And so we have about 2 minutes to go. I want those 2 minutes to go to you. And I want you to encapsulate what you think how you feel about this, what we should be doing as a nation. How should we be acting going forward?
I think everyone needs to start becoming a part of their community, however that's defined. Like, we're now at a point where an adult life can't be going to work and coming home, or going to work, going to the happy hour and coming home. Everyone needs to start becoming active in their community in some way, whether it's a civic association, whether it's the PTA, whether it's the NAACP, whether it's whatever it is, the Rotary, Kiwanis, the fraternity, sorority, something. Because once you start getting engaged in civic activism, you feel like you have more at stake with the state of society than if you just sit at home being a spectator. Yeah. And because once you start becoming a part of society, then you actually start seeing how society functions. And then you're able to become a part of the solution to whatever problems you see instead of someone complaining about problems all the time.
Right. So that's a absolutely great way to end because, I want everyone to go to www.terronsims.com. And for those non-military people, www.terronsims.com.